What if the war suddenly reached the heart of Russia itself? Imagine hundreds of silent machines slipping past the supposedly invincible defenses, setting fire to vital sites, shaking cities with explosions, and striking fear where it was least expected. This is no ordinary attack, it's a daring reversal of fortunes that left Moscow and surrounding regions reeling through the night of September 12. In the previous sequence, Ukraine unleashed a massive drone offensive that rattled Russia on multiple fronts. Official reports tallied over 200 intercepted drones, yet the swarm's relentless assault carved through air defenses, igniting chaos in Smolensk, Leningrad, and even Moscow itself. Now, let's dive deeper into how this unprecedented onslaught unfolded, challenging the Kremlin's claims of control, and revealing cracks in Russia's formidable shield. In western Russia, near the border with Belarus, the skies darkened with towering plumes of smoke over a major oil facility operated by Lukoil. Local videos captured witnesses' raw fear, fire blazing against the night horizon, booming explosions echoing through the air, and desperate cries from shocked residents. Yet, the region's governor barely acknowledged these events, avoiding mention of the blazing refinery or the unsettling sounds tearing through the night. Was this silence an attempt to mask the truth? The stark contrast between the official narrative and real footage suggests a deliberate cover-up to prevent panic, exposing a fragile truth beneath the Kremlin's polished facade. Traveling northward, the Leningrad region, adjacent to Estonia and Finland, faced another brutal strike. Ukrainian drones swarmed Primorsk port, the most significant oil shipping hub on the Baltic Sea, setting at least one vessel ablaze. Governor Alexander Drozdenko confirmed the firefight but downplayed the damage and casualties, insisting around 30 drones were shot down. Yet, scattered wreckage littered several communities, from Tosno, a town 30 miles from St. Petersburg, to smaller villages like Uzmano and Pokrovskoy. Air defenses scrambled again to protect St. Petersburg itself, forcing a temporary shutdown of Pulkovo Airport, Russia's second busiest airfield. Dozens of flights were cancelled or delayed, leaving travelers stranded and the region buzzing with tension. This disruption echoes a troubling pattern. Just 2 months earlier, nearly 300 flights across Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Nizhny Novgorod were grounded in the wake of similar drone raids. Each successive attack chips away at Russia's claim to dominance, turning air travel into a battlefield where warnings and cancellations have become routine. Could this be Ukraine's strategy to unsettle the heart of Russian civil life without escalating into more destructive ground offensives? It seems so, as these drone missions serve as both message and weapon, bringing the conflict closer to those who believe themselves safe. But perhaps the most unnerving element is that this drone offensive pierced the sky above Moscow itself. The city mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, reluctantly admitted that emergency teams responded to at least 9 downed drones within the capital. Yet, no details were given about the exact locations of impact, nor any damage. Its silence rings loud against witness reports flooding social channels, describing audibly fierce explosions west of the city, in Mozhaist and Didovsk. How many drones truly slipped past Moscow's famed defenses? Could the Kremlin's narrative of total drone interception be more fiction than fact? In total, the Russian Defense Ministry claimed significant drone interceptions, citing numbers like 85 downed drones in Bryansk, 42 in Smolensk, 28 in Leningrad, and smaller counts across Kaluga, Novgorod, Moscow, and Oryol regions. Additional interceptions were reported near Belgorod, Tula, and Kursk. However, with over a dozen regions affected, this coordinated Ukrainian strike marks one of the most widespread threats Russia has faced in recent memory. The sheer scale questions the air defense's effectiveness and the Kremlin's control over its skies. This night of destruction serves as a harsh mirror. Just as Russia regularly deploys swarms of drones across Ukraine wreaking havoc on cities, towns, and civilians, Ukraine showcased its own resilience and tactics by turning the tables. It revealed a side of the war that most Russians rarely see, their homeland vulnerable to the same kind of assaults they have inflicted. The crackling fires, the distant alarms, the smoke rising above key infrastructure all signal that even the supposed fortress of Moscow is not beyond reach. Still, the Kremlin boasts some of the world's most advanced radar and missile systems, S-400 and even the newer S-500, that should theoretically neutralize these airborne threats. Yet, here, those claims appear hollow. Smoke clouds and chaos paint a different reality, one where the defense lines faltered and the war's harsh truth hung heavy in the air. Tensions continue to rise as Ukraine strengthens its own defenses, vowing to intercept future waves more effectively. While Russia presses hard on offensive fronts, intensifying missile and drone strikes, this recent blow underlines a vital vulnerability. It exposes the war's brutal echo: no side can claim invulnerability. As night fell on September 12, the battlefields expanded not just across borders, but into the very heart of power itself. What will the next dawn bring, when both attacker and defender face an uncertain, shared sky? The atmosphere is charged with tension as the echoes of destruction ripple through the air. On September 12, Ukraine delivered a staggering blow to Russia, launching a massive drone assault that crossed the very borders both countries have fought to protect. Did Russia ever expect to feel the heat of its own fires? The drones relentlessly pursued targets across various Russian regions, including Moscow, creating chaos and panic. In the Leningrad region, the Primorsk port, Russia's largest oil loading facility on the Baltic Sea, became a focal point of the attack. A fire consumed a vessel docked there, a fact confirmed by Governor Alexander Drozdenko. He also reported that around 30 Ukrainian drones were intercepted, though this number might be an understatement. Debris rained down unexpectedly in towns like Tosno, just 30 miles southeast of St. Petersburg. The governor assured there were no casualties, but history shows how official reports can downplay truths to maintain a facade of control. The air defenses in St. Petersburg had to rise to the occasion. Pulkovo Airport, a bustling hub and the second busiest in the nation, grounded flights yet again, leaving passengers stranded as operations halted. This incident feeds into a troubling trend. Ukrainian drone strikes have increasingly disrupted civilian life, echoing fears across Russia's major cities. Back on July 6, nearly 300 flights were cancelled as safety soared to the forefront during similar attacks, a grim reality reinforcing how vulnerable Russia has become. The repercussions of Ukraine's drone strategy mean that Russian civilians are now witnessing the chaotic effects of warfare firsthand, bearing witness to what their leaders have imposed on Ukraine for so long. This unexpected reversal could spark a shift in perception. The strategic targeting of Russian infrastructure leaves the nation grappling with its own vulnerability in the face of the war. As explosions illuminated the skies, residents were terrified but determined. They captured moments of destruction on their devices, while their cries blended with the sounds of chaos surrounding them. What will this mean for the future? After the dust settled, the ordeal was far from over. As reports trickled in, they revealed that approximately 50 flights were upended due to this singular assault. The independent news channel Astra reported it as one of the most significant attacks the region has experienced since conflict escalated. With the last echoes of explosions still fresh in their minds, residents nervously awaited any new developments, aware that the war has now come to their doorsteps without warning. What does this mean for the Kremlin? The very metropolis once viewed as a stronghold now felt the tremors of conflict. Is the tide finally turning against those who sought to instill fear? As the stories unfold, will the truth behind these attacks emerge, or will the narrative remain under wraps for public consumption? The stakes are high, and the answers lie just beyond the horizon, waiting to be unveiled. On September 12, a storm brewed over Russia as Ukraine unleashed a massive drone offensive that sent shockwaves through the nation. Towns and cities, including the heart of Moscow, experienced an unprecedented attack, leaving residents in disbelief. The sound of explosions echoed in the air while thick smoke belched from burning sites. But how did Russia's military, equipped with powerful defenses, struggle against this aerial onslaught? With initial reports of chaos following the nighttime assault, Russian officials claimed hundreds of Ukrainian drones breached their borders. Although they asserted that 221 were intercepted, others slipped past, igniting fires and chaos. The Smolensk, Leningrad, and Moscow regions faced the brunt of this aggression. In Smolensk, a local oil facility erupted into flames, with residents capturing the heart-stopping moment through their cameras. Video footage revealed colossal smoke clouds rising ominously, underscoring the effectiveness of the drone strikes despite Russia's air defenses. As the aftershocks of the attack were felt, officials remained reluctant to disclose the full extent of the damage. Governor Vasily Anikin's silence about the Lukoil facility's destruction hinted at a cover-up, a common tactic employed by Russian authorities to stave off public panic. However, the sounds of distress from local residents told a different story. Further north, the Leningrad region also bore witness to drone warfare aimed at the Primorsk port, the key hub for oil exports. Confirmations of a fire aboard a vessel at the port from Governor Alexander Drozdenko increased the urgency of the situation. Although he reported that air defenses were activated, there were also claims of drone debris crashing in the town of Tosno, just 30 miles from St. Petersburg, confirming that Ukraine's offensive resonated deeply across the nation. As skies filled with the echoes of warfare, a temporary shutdown of Pulkovo Airport in St. Petersburg disrupted at least 50 flights, an alarming precursor to the growing threat of such strikes becoming commonplace. The tension escalated when reports of explosions reached the capital, igniting fears that the Kremlin's defenses might be crumbling under the weight of a sustained assault. And then came the shocking revelation: drones soared right above Moscow. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin claimed 9 were shot down, but whether damage was incurred remained cloaked in secrecy. In an age of rapid information sharing, how long could the Kremlin maintain its narrative? Rumors swirled in Telegram channels, unraveling a story of chaos in nearby communities, casting doubt on the Defense Ministry's assurances of thwarted attacks. As the dust settled, people continued to feel the tremors of uncertainty, listening to news of explosions near the capital. Could it be that the balance of power was shifting dramatically? With every inch closer to a war-torn reality, the question lingered: how prepared really was Russia for this wake-up call? This aerial assault wasn't just a shockwave, it was a clarion call that resonated across the nation. Exposing vulnerabilities long hidden behind a curtain of bravado. An unexpected twist emerged as Ukrainian forces launched a dramatic drone assault that rattled Russia's defenses. The operation, occurring just days after Russia had unleashed a historic barrage of drones on Ukraine, saw hundreds of Ukrainian drones swarm across borders, signaling a bold strike at the heart of Russia. Reports flowed in from various cities, revealing a shocking extent of chaos, while Russian authorities struggled to contain the narrative. Surrounded by uncertainty, the Russian Defense Ministry announced that 85 drones had been neutralized in the Moscow region alone, alongside significant interceptions in neighboring areas such as Bryansk and Smolensk. Yet, residents from Mozhaysk and Didovsk, towns just west of the capital, were left to recount the terrifying sounds of explosions echoing through their streets. Could it be that the vast power of the Russian military was not as impenetrable as they claimed? With the Kremlin boasting about its advanced military assets like the S-400 and S-500 defense systems, it was alarming to witness multiple drone strikes go uninterrupted through the heart of the capital. Ukrainian drones pierced the defenses, targeting key locations across Smolensk, Leningrad, and Moscow, igniting fires and panic among civilians. Amid the aftermath, a palpable tension hung in the air, highlighted by the eerie silence following explosions. As videos surfaced showing dark clouds of smoke billowing into the sky, one could wonder how many unreported damages and casualties lay hidden from public knowledge. The apparent information control by Russian officials ignited skepticism, suggesting that the reality on the ground was being masked to maintain morale. This escalated offensive placed residents in a state of dread, but for Ukrainians, it was a chance to showcase their own resilience. While Russia had long inflicted harm on Ukrainian cities, they were now being met with similar tactics, a twist of fate that injected a new urgency into the conflict. The repercussions were not merely about military points, they echoed through every household in both nations, reminding everyone that war knows no boundaries and its costs are universally felt. With each retaliatory drone launched, Ukraine offered Russia a haunting glimpse of its own fate. And as cities burned, it raised haunting questions: would this prompt a change? Could it awaken a sense of urgency for peace after realizing the horrors of warfare? Or was it simply the beginning of a more brutal cycle, swirling ever deeper into chaos? As the dust settled over Moscow, the stark reality remained: the battleground had shifted. What will it take for both sides to confront the full damage of their relentless conflict, and who will ultimately bear the scars when the fighting finally ceases? Previously, we saw Ukraine deliver a fierce blow to Russia, drones swarming over Russian soil, fires raging, even Moscow itself could not hide from the storm. Yet, despite these bold moves, earlier attacks on the Moscow region showed only limited success. Meanwhile, the relentless bombardment of Kiev continued, painting a grim picture of war's unyielding grip. Have you ever wondered what it feels like when your home shakes from endless explosions, when the skies above your city pulse with fiery streaks from missiles? Just days before the massive Ukrainian drone strike, Russia unleashed an unprecedented barrage on Kyiv and surrounding towns. Over 800 missiles and drones darkened the skyline, turning nights into hellish chaos. The toll was devastating. At least 4 innocent lives lost, more than 40 wounded. Among the casualties was a new mother and her infant child, caught in the merciless crossfire. Residential buildings burned, fires crackled, and booming explosions echoed across the city, reverberating through hearts and streets alike. In the midst of this devastation, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, cried out against the brutality. He called these attacks deliberate crimes that only extend the agony of war when real diplomatic efforts could have bridged peace long ago. He warned that refusal to engage in talks would spur harsher sanctions, emphasizing the urgency of honoring all agreements made in Paris. Yet, beneath his words of condemnation, Zelensky revealed a steely resolve. Ukraine isn't merely enduring these assaults, they are fighting back smarter. Jointly with France, they are orchestrating new strategies to fortify defenses, to intercept the next floods of enemy drones and missiles before they sear through the skies again. A silent race against time and destruction. On the other side, Russia appears to be betting heavily on offense, often at the expense of defense. Their attacks have escalated relentlessly, hundreds of drones launched per strike, missiles raining down relentlessly on Kyiv and other regions. Along the front lines, Russian forces mobilize small squads in vicious assaults on towns like Pokrovsk, pressing to carve out gains as swiftly as possible. But what about the quiet moments before the storm? Imagine the sharp scent of burning metal in the air, the acrid smoke filling lungs, the sharp crackle of intercepted drones as they fall like wounded birds from the sky. Does such intensity reveal strength or vulnerability? As this brutal cycle continues, the balance of this conflict teeters ominously. Who truly holds the advantage, those striking hard or those defending with growing desperation? Every explosion shakes more than buildings, it shifts the fate of nations and the lives of millions. What will happen next, as these relentless waves crash against both sides? The war's shadows grow longer, and every dawn could bring a new reckoning. In the relentless storm of conflict, Russia has been pouring more weapons toward Kyiv, sending hundreds of drones in each wave, aiming to inflict maximum damage. Along the front line, it has deployed numerous small units to seize towns like Pokrovsk. Yet, the actual advancement on the ground remains frustratingly slow in many sectors, as resistance runs deep. But then, something extraordinary happened. Russian drones crossed not only Ukraine's borders but soared into Poland, an ally within NATO. For the first time since the war began, the Polish Air Force was forced to shoot down these swarms inside its own skies. Reports suggest these drones targeted Rzeszów Airport, a crucial node that connects European aid to Ukraine. Some drones even ventured into Lithuanian airspace. Moscow denies any fault, claiming the drones could not have flown so far. Yet, experts and global leaders say otherwise. A senior NATO official told a leading German newspaper, considering all the facts, it's clear these drones entered NATO airspace on purpose. Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius echoed that view, there was no reason for these drones to take this route. It's impossible they accidentally flew over Poland in such great numbers. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was equally firm, this was a deliberate provocation, a dangerous escalation stretching the war's frontiers. He warned, Moscow keeps pushing limits. If unchecked, the conflict will spiral further. At least 8 strike drones entered NATO skies today, not by accident, but on a clear mission. This sets an alarming precedent for Europe. Zelensky stressed that a robust, coordinated response is crucial. Moscow must learn that its attempts to widen this conflict will face severe consequences. Imagine the tension in the air that night. The hum of drones cutting through the cold, thick skies. The rattle of anti-aircraft fire, echoing across forests and fields, a new front opening far from the battlefield most know. The question lingers, was Russia truly prepared for this moment? Or did its aggressive push leave it vulnerable, exposed beyond its own borders? If these drones manage to skirt defenses and invade NATO, what does this say about the fragile balance of power in this war? Could this escalation ignite a larger conflict that no one wants? The eyes of Europe are watching, the stakes higher than ever. Will Moscow's gambit backfire spectacularly? Only time will reveal the painful answers. As the night cloaked the skies over Ukraine, a thunderous awakening echoed across Russian territories. In a daring display of power, Ukraine launched waves of drones, delivering a troubling message straight to Russia's doorstep. This enormous assault, occurring on September 12, saw hundreds of Ukrainian drones racing toward their targets, with Moscow itself shaken by the chaotic consequences. How did a nation on the defensive turn the tides and strike fear into the heart of its aggressor? Russian officials scrambled to maintain their composure, claiming to have intercepted hundreds of drones. Yet, despite their elaborate defenses, several managed to slip through the cracks, leaving a path of destruction in their wake. Could this mark a turning point in the ongoing conflict? In places like Smolensk and Leningrad, explosive fires erupted, illuminating the darkness. Frantic residents, capturing the chaos, watched as smoke billowed into the night, while distant explosions punctuated the air with a haunting soundtrack of alarm. In the heart of Smolensk, firefighting efforts erupted near a Lukoil facility, where the governor remained conspicuously quiet on the true extent of the chaos. A cover-up, perhaps? Footage from local cameras contradicted his words, capturing the fiery aftermath. While the governor downplayed the events, terrified cries from the crowd told a different story. The truth made its way through the cracks of censorship. There's no hiding the fear that gripped the city. Meanwhile, further north in Leningrad, Ukrainian drones targeted the Primorsk port. Striking where it hurt the most, the heart of Russian oil transport. Fires raged on docked vessels, underscoring Ukraine's capabilities in undermining Russian logistics. Governor Alexander Drozdenko claimed air defenses had thwarted 30 drones, dismissing accidents from stray debris. As explosions reverberated in towns like Tosno, could this incident be a precursor to widespread panic in Russia? In a cruel twist of fate, even Moscow, a fortified heart of the Kremlin, was not exempt from the chaos. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin reported down drones over the capital. The mayor's lack of detail left many questions unanswered. Had the city truly escaped unscathed? Telegram channels buzzed with eyewitness accounts of explosions ripping through communities nearby. While the defense ministry announced drone interceptions, could it be that defensive claims were merely a facade to conceal their vulnerability? Ukraine's calculated retaliation launched a psychological offensive, mirroring Russia's own tactics. As the horrors of war inflicted upon Ukrainian civilians now rattled Russian domains, could this strategy shift the narrative? Some might argue that nothing complements offense like a taste of one's own medicine. Despite boasting about advanced systems like the S-400 and S-500, Russia found itself unprepared for the onslaught. For months, its focus has been on attacking, ignoring the necessity of defense. Is it possible that Ukraine's persistent strikes could turn the tide, influencing public perception in Russia itself? In a stunning turn of events, just prior to Ukraine's drone barrage, Russia had ramped up its aerial assaults on Ukrainian cities, raining death and chaos. The sorrowful toll of these attacks included innocent lives, reeling from the impact of obliterated homes and disrupted livelihoods in places like Kiev. President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned these actions, warning of their implications and vowing to strengthen defenses further. Yet, as one door closes, another might just open. Ukraine's bold move exposes a critical weakness in Russia. Magical words become meaningless in a land where drums of war echo. Could this perfect storm of events reshape the world's view on this conflict? With each drone launch, the stakes grow higher, the battle lines blur, and the reality of war lingers heavily in the air. What will be the next chapter in this tale of resilience, strategy, and the quest for peace? In a groundbreaking turn of events, a recent drone offensive from Ukraine has dealt a staggering blow to Russian defenses. This attack, launched on September 12, saw a swarm of drones penetrate deep into Russian territory, reaching as far as Moscow, with many locations left engulfed in flames. Amid the chaos, Russian officials reported the interception of 221 drones, yet significant damage still unfolded before their eyes. As fireworks of destruction illuminated the night sky, an uncomfortable truth began to surface: Russia's once impenetrable defenses may be crumbling. In the Smolensk region, sirens wailed while fires erupted at oil facilities, shrouding the area in thick, dark smoke. Eyewitnesses captured the explosive moment, recounting the terrifying sounds of chaos. The governor attempted to downplay the incident, failing to mention the unfolding disaster. Reports of frightened locals echoed as explosions rang out, shaking their faith in the government's narrative. Who could truly be trusted when the night was ablaze and the stakes were higher than ever? Meanwhile, the Leningrad region faced its own turmoil. Ukrainian strike teams zeroed in on the price of Russia's energy supply, targeting important transfer points like the Primorsk port. An impactful blaze ignited on a vessel docked there, revealing just how exposed Russia truly was. Was this mere coincidence, or was Ukraine now mastering the art of strategic warfare? As drone fragments rained down across towns like Tosno, locals braced themselves for what felt like a relentless siege. Even St. Petersburg's Pulkovo International Airport came to a halt, sending travelers reeling as flights were grounded amidst fears of further assaults. Can a nation rooted in might truly withstand such persistent blows to its homeland? The psychological impact of these drone incursions ran deeper than the physical damage. For the first time, citizens of Moscow heard the dreaded hum of drones above their heads, a sound synonymous with dread, now chillingly familiar. As reports emerged of drones shot down, the tension surged. What lay beneath the surface of official accounts? Explosions rattled nearby areas, casting shadows of doubt over the Kremlin's confidence. Did they possess the means to defend their very heart? Striking images of devastation appeared on social media as the world watched. Viewers were left wondering, could Russia's grand military claims withstand this new reality? As Ukrainian forces targeted crucial elements of Russia's air defense systems, a parallel was drawn. The relentless offensive of the Kremlin contrasted sharply with Ukraine's data-driven, strategic precision. Each targeted attack against Russia's military assets stripped away layers of protective cover, leaving Putin's parade of power increasingly vulnerable. Indeed, what was unfolding resembled a haunting reflection of how Ukraine has endured relentless assaults for far too long. With missiles raining on civilian targets, the conflict had morphed into a tragic cycle of retribution. As President Zelensky declared that Ukraine would bolster its defenses, a thought lingered: was this evolution of warfare pushing both sides into an unpredictable new era? For every drone that soared past Russian cities, the atmosphere swirled with deeper confrontations. Would this be the moment that shifted the tide, not just in actions taken, but in the hearts and minds of the people bearing the brunt of this ongoing clash? Resistance had become an echo throughout Ukraine, inspiring a nation to redefine what it meant to fight, reclaim, and prevail against tyranny. And the conflict, once confined to borders, had cast its shadow across the very heart of Russia itself, leaving behind a question: could the invincible facade finally crumble under the weight of its own hubris? Imagine waking up one night to the distant roar of explosions and look outside to see smoke billowing against the dark sky. This was the scene across parts of Russia on September 12, when Ukraine launched a massive drone strike that shattered the illusion of safety inside the Kremlin's walls. Hundreds of Ukrainian drones swept over Russia's border, targeting strategic sites from Smolensk to Moscow itself. Despite Russian claims of intercepting most of these flying threats, the reality painted a different story. Fires still raged, alarms blared, and neighborhoods trembled. Could this be the moment when the long-claimed invincibility of Russian air defenses finally cracked? The story begins with Russia's continuing airstrikes aimed at Ukraine's towns and cities, mostly hitting civilian areas with tragic, heartbreaking consequences. But Ukraine's strategy could not have been more different. Instead of random destruction, Kyiv has been laser-focused on crippling what actually matters to Russia's military might: radar stations worth millions, missile launchers, air defense complexes. These are the true game-changers. By dismantling these critical nodes, Ukraine doesn't just inflict temporary damage, it opens deadly gaps deep inside Russian territory. Recall the eerie calm that precedes a storm, the smell of burning rubber, the sharp crackle of explosions bouncing off distant walls. That's what residents around Smolensk experienced as fires erupted at a major oil facility operated by Lukoil. Locals captured haunting footage of thick black smoke reaching into the night sky while the governor's carefully worded statements barely acknowledged what had happened. Why hide the truth? Because inside Russia, admitting such breaches would be a blow to official pride, chaos to public morale. Further north, the Baltic coast near Leningrad was rattled too. Ukraine hit the Primorsk port, Russia's biggest oil-loading hub on the Baltic Sea. Flames flared on docked vessels, and debris scattered across several towns. The governor admitted that about 30 drones were intercepted, but the echoes of explosions and sudden airport shutdowns told a different tale. Pulkovo, St. Petersburg's international gateway, ground flights to a halt, something that's becoming worryingly routine. How many more such disruptions must Russians endure before questioning their commander's promises of control and power? Back in Moscow, a city that once seemed out of reach from the front lines, the unthinkable unfolded. Moscow's mayor announced 9 drones were shot down, but whispered voices in the streets told stories of explosions near suburbs like Mozhaysk and Didovsk. The drone debris littered the grounds where children once played, a glaring symbol of vulnerability in a city portrayed as untouchable. Could the heart of Russia, defended by some of the world's most advanced missile systems, now be exposed and rattled? Russian officials flooded the media with numbers: 221 drones intercepted across various regions, including Bryansk, Smolensk, Leningrad, and Moscow. Yet the widespread chaos and fires suggest these numbers mask a grimmer reality. Ukraine's drone swarms struck over a dozen regions in a single night. This was not a random act, it was a calculated sting, a precise hammer blow to Russia's defenses. Flashback to a cold winter evening months ago, when Russia rained hundreds of drones and missiles down on Kiev over 801 wave, causing tragic casualties, including a new mother and her infant. For all its destructive force, that attack had one glaring flaw: it targeted civilian areas, hurting the people but doing little to break Ukraine's fighting spirit. A scent of burning wood lingered in Kiev's streets as children huddled in shelters, while Ukrainian forces devised a plan not just for defense, but for turning the tables. Now, Ukraine is showing strategic brilliance. It hunts the snakes before they strike: radar arrays, missile launchers. These are not easy targets, but Kiev's intelligence is relentless. That precision is slowly unraveling the fortress Russia has built around itself. Behind the scenes, Russia spends billions on cutting-edge weapons, tanks, armored vehicles, advanced missile systems named S-400 and S-500, supposedly capable of fending off incoming strikes. Yet, as the fires across key cities prove, even these mighty defenses faltered when confronted with hundreds of relatively simple drones. How can a superpower fail to protect its own capital, ports, and military hubs? In the shadows of this conflict lies a chilling question: is Russia's focus on offense blinding it to weaknesses at home? 4 months. It has unleashed brutal attacks on Ukraine's cities but neglected the ironclad defense its own homeland desperately needs. The drones that Ukraine repurposes, the new domestically produced missiles unveiled recently, Long Neptune, Sapsan, Flamingo, signal a shift in momentum. Russia may soon find itself under relentless pressure, unable to stop these increasingly sophisticated strikes. As the night sky burned with smoke over Russian cities, and residents heard the echo of explosions far from any front line, one fact emerged starkly clear: Ukraine's war has arrived within Russia's borders. And the consequences are just beginning to unfold. What will happen the next time these swarms descend, fueled not just by desperation, but by strategy and resolve? Will Russia's mighty arsenal hold firm, or crumble under the pressure of a relentless new enemy? The answer might change the course of this war and the lives of millions forever. In a shocking display of strategic warfare, Ukraine has turned the tables on Russia, launching a significant drone assault that echoed the sound of distant explosions throughout the night. This fierce onslaught struck not only military targets but also sent a chilling message, with the Ukrainian drones illuminating the skies over Moscow on September 12. As Russian defenses faltered, the consequences were immediate and devastating. Imagine night falling over Moscow, a city usually filled with calm, suddenly disturbed by the roar of drones piercing through the air. Could Russian air defenses truly handle the oncoming storm? Reports flooded in, echoing chaos across multiple regions, from the governor of Smolensk to the buzzing media outlets. Those who witnessed the attack shared videos of thick clouds of smoke rising ominously, fires bursting on the horizon, and the muffled sounds of detonation that jolted the night. Smolensk, the western border stronghold, became a focal point for the assault. Emails and messages buzzed with urgency, as local officials reported damage to critical infrastructures like a Lukoil facility, only to quickly play down the destruction, as if hoping to veil the truth from the public. However, residents' cries captured something unavoidable: the reality of chaos wrought by the drones. How could it be that despite Russia's claims of intercepting hundreds, the damage appeared extensive? As the drone wave surged northward, the Leningrad region felt the reverberations next. Here, near St. Petersburg, devastating strikes hit Primorsk port, Russia's significant oil-loading hub. Explosions echoed as a ship caught fire, illuminating the dark waters. But was this chaos merely a fluke, or did it signify a new era of warfare where Ukraine's precision targeted Russia's Achilles heel, rather than civilian enclaves? As if further proof of strategic success were needed, the major cities like St. Petersburg were thrust into disarray. Air defenses scrambled, and Pulkovo Airport, a central hub for international travel, faced temporary shutdowns. The haunting question arose: are the skies above Russia still safe, or is this merely the beginning of Ukraine's retribution? With every passing hour, the scale of the assault became clearer. What drove Ukraine to such decisive actions? Was it desperation, or an understanding that the war had transformed? As Canadian regulators grounded flights across Russian airspace, whispers of panic seeped through the walls of Kremlin confidence. How long could Russia pretend to maintain its grip? Amidst all this turmoil, a startling twist revealed itself. Reports suggested that Mayor Sobyanin downplayed the effectiveness of security measures. 9 drones were claimed to have been intercepted directly over Moscow, yet independent accounts from Telegram channels portrayed a different reality, hinting at the grim truth behind official narratives. Could Russian technology, despite its purported might, actually be crumbling under the relentless pressure of Ukraine's strategy? In a world of information, can secrets remain buried? As drone attacks further infiltrated the heart of Russia, revealing